Hello and welcome to episode 276 of the official EstablishTheRun.com podcast. My name is Adam Levitan. I am one of the co-founders here at ETR, and we are coming off of an Atlanta Falcons buried me again kind of week. Yes, that's right. I had the absolute stone cold nuts for DraftKings cash Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern. Had Mike Pittman in there, Chris Godwin, Jonathan Taylor. I didn't really think it was a off the board kind of team, but I don't think many other people were going to play it. And then the Calvin Ridley news hit that Ridley would sit out again for personal issues. And my thought was that CPAT would serve as the 1A at running back still, something around 60% of the running back carries, and then also be featured in the pass game at near alpha levels. I mean, his target competition, other than Kyle Pitts, was Tajay Sharp, Russ Gage, Alameda Zaccheaus. So with that kind of usage, I decided to come off Jonathan Taylor, who was 7,200, and use that extra money, the 1,000 I saved, to get up to Cooper Kupp and Van Jefferson over Michael Pittman and Chris Godwin. And I'm actually really struggling with what was right here in hindsight. I mean, obviously the results are blinding. My original team outscored the new 3v3 by 25.3 DraftKings points. But in terms of process, I'm not really sure. I think you can make a case that with Antonio Brown out, Rob Gronkowski expected to barely play, Mike Evans' history versus Marshawn Lattimore, that you can make a case that Chris Godwin was just an absolute must. But I think from a more macro perspective, the Falcon stuff is interesting. Like when you look at their team and you remove Calvin Ridley, I think sometimes I don't bake in enough systemic risk. In other words, the median was fine, the mean was fine, but what if the Falcons are so bad, so untalented, facing a Panthers defense which has quietly been second in yards per play allowed this season? What if everything just goes down the shitter for the Falcons? And that's kind of what happened. I mean, CPAT's usage wasn't great. It wasn't as strong as I expected, but it was fine. The problem was the Falcons only ran 50 offensive plays. I mean, that's an incredibly low number. And so, they only averaged 4.3 yards per play. That's just pathetic. For reference, the Bears are the worst team in the league in yards per play at 4.4. Meanwhile, if I stick on the original team, I get access to the only two Colts that are featured in their offense against one of the worst defenses in the league in the Titans in a must-win, and I get to keep Godwin. So I don't know. I really don't. There was another option I had, which was to go CPAT over JT, but leave Godwin in and upgrade Pittman to Keenan Allen. I think that was fine too. But getting to the slate breaker, aka the breakfast man himself, Cooper Kupp, was just so appetizing. But anyways, that's not really the point. The point I more want to make is that we've seen it so many times with the Falcons. Their overall team floor can get really low. Systemic risk is real, I think. So I just want to try to keep that in mind going forward. But it was still a solid week for me in cash. Only won like 38 or 39% of head-to-heads, but won my high-stakes stuff. So that was good. It was a good result, all things considered. Want to touch on a couple other things, but first need to remind everyone the NBA season is indeed underway. It is tough for me to convey how overwhelmingly impossible it is to try to play NBA DFS or bet NBA props without a literal team of people working 24/7 on projections. That is what we have, led by Dinkin Gallagher. We have people in all time zones all over the world, 2 separate products, one for DFS, one for props. Highly recommend you check it out. Props are just an absolute smash. As expected, through Sunday, we had already bet 85 NFL props. Through the subscriber-only Discord, gone 53 and 32. There's just a relentless amount of news and action that we can bet on in the prop street 7 days a week. All right, so I know we talk a lot about macro DFS and gambling concepts on this solo pod. Wanted to highlight a few things from week 8 that I think were more micro. And I know people love to say these days that, there's no edges left in micro stuff. Everything's baked in, but I think they're just wrong. And I'm not saying we nailed all these this week, but understanding shifting roles does really take a lot of nuance and understanding that's really difficult to capture. The biggest one that comes to mind from week 8 is the Kenny Gainwell stuff. So all year, Boston Scott was on the team. He was on the Eagles. He was often active, but he was playing literally 0 snaps. That left everyone to simply assume that he was behind Kenny Gainwell in all situations. But in fact, that's not it. The Eagles simply view their running back position as totally different roles. In other words, Miles Sanders had his role, and Boston Scott is the direct backup there. And Gainwell's role doesn't change at all with Miles out. Like, not at all. Now, if the Eagles had gotten behind in that game against the Lions and they had a lot of clear passing situations, then Gainwell would have played plenty, just like he did when Miles was healthy. So anyways, Gainwell comes in at 17% owned in the Millie Maker, in the $20 Millie Maker, which is just wild to me. 17% in the $20 Millie Maker. Note that he was only 7% owned in the 4K, in the $4,000 buy-in Millie Maker, showing some sharpness of the field there. I'd also say this whole discussion doesn't even consider that Jordan Howard was active for the first time all season. And if you were on Twitter, which, by the way, you have to be if you want to play fantasy football seriously, I assume everybody listening to this is on Twitter, but if not, you need to be on there. On Twitter, you knew that the beat writers were expecting Jordan Howard to play, and a couple of beat writers even said they expected Jordan Howard to start. Some other subtle micro stuff from week 8, the Godwin spot, which I already discussed. Understanding that Joe Mixon had a little higher pass catching ceiling with Chris Evans out, even though P. Ryan was active. Understanding what Michael Carter's role has been with Tevin Coleman out, plus the historic data on rookie RB usage after a bye. Understanding the Dan Arnold stuff that Leone was talking about all week. Like all this micro stuff. This is the stuff I love. I think this is where my edge is. I didn't think I did a great job of capitalizing on it this week, but I also don't want to get so macro that we lose sight of some of the micro stuff. Okay, let's get to tournaments because, after all, I am your humble king GPP bro. My best GPP team this week was on FanDuel. It was a very straightforward stack. Stafford, Cooper Kupp, the slate breaker, breakfast narrative, Tyler Higbee, Brandon Cooks, with the bring back, right? Standard double bring back, Stafford, Kupp, Higbee, Cooks. I'm always trying to correlate tight ends, so I went Higbee over Robert Woods, a.k.a. Bobby Trees there. I thought that was fine. Higbee's been so disappointing, but he's also been really close to some big games. At running back, I thought Joe Mixon was arguably the best bet for a touchdown on the slate. Got him in on FanDuel, touchdown heavy FanDuel, correlated that with Bengals D. On FanDuel, Eli Mitchell was just $5,800, just an absurdly cheap price. And this is an example of how playing multiple sites can help. I didn't love Eli Mitchell on full PPR DraftKings at $5,400 when it wasn't that much more to Chuba, D. Hendo, Mixon, Swift, Jonathan Taylor, so many elite running back plays in that range. And also on full PPR DraftKings, Mitchell is just a stone zero in the pass game. But on FanDuel, that wasn't the case. I already said he was $5,800, so cheap. And touchdowns are all that matters. And Eli Mitchell's rushing role was so locked. So yeah, I played Eli Mitchell with Mixon at running back. I had a chance to win the tournament, but the last two spots were a mini stack of Cordero Patterson and Robbie Anderson. I wanted Cordero Patterson and DJ Moore, obviously, but there was just no chance I could fit that. So I got 9th in the 4-4-4. Good result. Think the team was good. Looking back at the ownership percentages, Matthew Stafford 7%, Kupp 13%, Higbee 10%, Cooks 11%. That's kind of what I'm looking for. Stars at depressed ownership. On DraftKings, I had 5 tournament teams. I didn't cash any of them. But since I'm now a GPP bro, I can just say, I played fine. It's just variance. I was only a 9v9 away from winning $1 million. So, yeah. Okay, enough is enough. Let's get to everyone's favorite portion of the program, the listener questions. Producer Luke, hit the theme music. All right. Thank you to everyone for the questions. If I didn't get to yours today, I may get to it next week. Question 1 comes from someone in Discord sent this to me. They wanted to remain anonymous. It says, "Hi, Adam. I'm a 24-year-old bachelor and feel like my MROE, masturbation rate over expectation, is up 200 to 300% from when I was running hot and actively on the hashtag team. Been in a slump lately and will likely remain in it through the remainder of the NFL season. Does Gender Labs have any definitive data on what the optimal masturbation sessions per week should be for someone in my situation?" Yeah, good question. Good question. We actually don't have any data on MROE right now, but that is on our roadmap. Right after the mint and the reveal, the roadmap does call for this data. We need to get our Series F funding round underway. Of course, we'll be raising $500 million at a $2 trillion valuation, standard terms these days in the VC world. But, I do think that in these spots, a bet is in order. Usually with everything in life, I usually think a bet is in order, but I do think a bet is in order. Like, generally speaking, keeping your MROE, your masturbation rate over expectation, and your JMP, your JPM, your jerks per minute, I think keeping those as low as possible is optimal, right? Like, I think the net result is being more outgoing, less lazy. You get out there and you dance and you do whatever you got to do to get on the team. I know Joe Ingram, friend of the show, did a bet with Fedor a few years ago. I think it was roughly like 4 to 5 months, a 4 to 5 month no masturbation bet. And, if you can get someone to give you that bet, that might be one that you want to take on. Like, it's probably a net positive. Like when I did that no carb bet a couple years ago, it was only a month and I fucking hated it. I mean, I hated it. It was miserable not eating carbs, but I felt incredible. Like, my health was incredible. So anyways, Godspeed to you and good luck. Question 2 from Nick. He says, how long till season long leagues are dead? Why haven't big season long players, ESPN, Yahoo, etc., integrated DFS somehow, some way to keep users from fleeing to FanDuel and DraftKings? Oh, I don't think season long leagues will ever be dead. In fact, you can make a case that season-long fantasy football is growing still. I mean, people just love it so much, and it's so social, Play with your buddies, play with your coworkers, bust balls. I mean, I never watched the show, but like they made an entire hit sitcom out of season-long fantasy football league, called The League or whatever it is. I do think that right now is a great time to market DFS to season-long players. Like, hey, look, you fucked up your draft, you ran bad, you got unlucky, you have Calvin Ridley or Christian McCaffrey or whatever, you're 1-7, it's time to give up and focus on DFS, start over. But one thing I'll say about being a DFS operator, like, I don't know the details for sure, but my suspicion is that it's not as profitable of a business as it seems on the surface, from an operator standpoint. Like, it's expensive. I mean, you need an incredibly strong tech team. You need to hit a tipping point in terms of users to attract other users, which takes an insane amount of marketing spend, So I know what you're saying, Nick, but it's just not as easy as it seems, I think. Question 3 from the Heisman. He said, if you had to choose between never being on Team Sex again or never being able to bet on sports, including DFS props, which would you choose and why? Yeah, I mean, Jesus, Heisman, this is a ridiculous question. I mean, of course, I'd rather never bet on sports again than give up the team forever. I mean, come on, what kind of man do you think I am? I'd also say 2 other things here. First, not gambling ever again would probably be a net positive on my life and mental health. I've talked a bunch on here about, just being totally numb to real life and about some of the stress that comes with playing big relative to your role and, grinding smallish edges. It's not great, I think, for mental health. And second, I mean, let's be honest, just because I couldn't play DFS or bet props anymore, it doesn't mean that I couldn't still gamble. I mean, the stock market is gambling dressed up in a suit, with fancy terms. Real estate is gambling dressed up as investing, or construction. It's all gambling. Most stuff just isn't stigmatized the way poker or DFS or sports betting is. Question 4 from Andy. He says, do you have most of your tournament lineups created by Saturday night, or do you ever wait until Sunday morning? Have been delaying until Sunday morning just to wait for every ounce of news, but have found this caused me a bit of galaxy brain scrambling the past few weeks or so. Yeah, I typically wait until Sunday to make all my teams, especially if there's news pending. I just wait for the overnight Schefter bombs. But that doesn't mean that I'm just starting then. I'm like, I think I'm unique in that I'm massively over-prepared to make teams on Sunday morning because of everything I do Monday through Friday. Not Saturday. Obviously, Saturday is the day of rest / sex, as commanded by God. But, making teams is really like the easy part. But yeah, sometimes I do feel rushed or scrambling on Sunday, like I wake up 4:30, 5 o'clock Mountain Time. I'm going through all the news. I'm confirming we're good on top play article. I'm helping Leone with the projections if we need. I'm getting ready for last minute live stream with Silva. I'm doing the show with Silva. I'm setting season long teams. I'm setting super contest picks. It's definitely a lot. I think if you do really feel rushed, then it's not worth it. Build as much as you can Saturday. But, I'd say with most things in life, like the deeper you get into it, the more you realize how deep it is. For each tournament team, I need to understand what the field is going to do, what the range of outcomes is on players, make sure the base value is strong. It's a lot. So when something like the Ridley news hits, I was scrambling like crazy. I mean, it can get messy for sure. Question 5 from Suma Teeth. He says, after seeing this extreme newfound chemistry between DK Metcalf, Geno Smith, Tyler Lockett, is it possible that the foursome included 3 of them, and now we need a heavily weighted foursome slider? The 3 of them were in lockstep all game. Never seen such chemistry before. This DK Metcalf thing is so amazing, man. So he's on the same, team as Russ Wilson. They're both on the Seahawks. This is the same Russ Wilson who declined the sex with Ciara before marriage. This is the same Russ who was always quoting the Bible, massive Bible narrative with Tyler Lockett, amongst others. Then we find out last week that DK Metcalf is piping OnlyFans girls and telling them to hit the bricks if he can't get a foursome. I mean, this dude is all-time team sex legend. So yeah, I found it amazing. I just can't imagine Russ reading about this DK Metcalf situation and then the convos that they have, But yeah, I mean, based on the data that we have, it's not surprising that the Geno DK Metcalf combo is working. It is surprising that the Geno Tyler Lockett narrative went off on Sunday night. Speaking of narratives, obviously most of this is a joke, but guys, seriously, I've been talking about this Carson Wentz, Michael Pittman Bible narrative situation since literally August. I'm so convinced it's real. These guys are 1,000% going to Bible study together. 1,000%. And it shows on the field. Just easy breakout spot for Michael Pittman this season. All right. 2 people asked very similar questions, so we're going to do 6A and 6B here. 6A is from Drew. I know it's been brought up briefly, but do you feel like the field has begun to over-prioritize stacking and paying up for dual-threat quarterbacks? 6B from Jeff. Has the field overcorrected for prioritizing rushing quarterbacks, Godwin, Kupp, etc. among the most popular on Sunday, but Hurts was higher owned than Tom Brady and Matthew Stafford, even though both are outscoring him this year, despite the lack of rushing? Yeah, so we are tracking this every week. We are tracking what percent of the field is stacking, what percent is double stacking, what percent is double stacking with bringbacks, etc. And then we're comparing those numbers to what the field is doing, what the top 1% is doing. And I actually don't have that data in front of me right now, but I think we're going to do, kind of a mid-season episode on that, and I'll keep that in mind. But as for my gut feel on this, I think DraftKings has really priced up quarterbacks now to the point where we have that big gap again at times. In other words, $8K for Kyler or $5,400 for Tua. No brainer, right? Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes have consistently been around $8K as well. But we did get Jalen Hurts, Dak, Lamar around that $7K range for a while. And to me, that's not a big enough gap to some of the pocket passers. I'm never playing $5,800 Derek Carr over a $7K Jalen Hurts, at least in cash. For tournaments, I play the pocket passer doubles all the time. If you want to double stack, pocket passer is almost better, especially on FanDuel where it's so touchdown heavy, but also on DraftKings. And it's crazy. I talked about, earlier in this episode, I talked about how no one played Matthew Stafford doubles. I had a Brady double also, and it's incredible that no one played that either. It's just so tightly concentrated on the Bucs right now. It's such a perfect situation. And yeah, everyone played Godwin a ton, but no one played Brady or Evans or Tyler Johnson. On stacking in general, though, I'd be shocked if we found that the field was overstacking. It's just so hard to not stack and win. Think about it. You essentially need to get 9 out of 9 things right. A 9-player uncorrelated parlay. That's the biggest, donkey bet that you can make if you're betting sports. It's just crazy to try to hit a 9-player uncorrelated parlay. So if I do a double stack with a bringback, I literally only need one thing to go right and my lineup is cooking. I just need that game to go ham. So look, I know I joke about the King GPP bro stuff. In reality, this is not my wheelhouse. This is Dink Leone territory, and this is actually something Leone and I maybe we can cover it on Monday or Tuesday of next week. Yeah, so we'll circle back on that. Question 7 from Sean. He says, what are your real thoughts on the crypto space? So I'm really, really hesitant to talk about shit that I don't know well. Seems like no one in the world has a problem, spouting off about shit they don't really know about, but it really does make me uncomfortable. Like, you want to ask me about poker or DFS or fantasy football or peer-to-peer gambling stuff or sex jokes or Bible jokes. I mean, I could talk about that all day. But I see so many people like slap not financial advice, on their crypto takes or whatever, then just spout off. I mean, it's crazy. All I know from my very limited understanding on the space is like, I personally genuinely believe digital money, trustless transactions verified by blockchain, aka computer code, and like overall blockchain technology will win, like period. But beyond that, like, I'm not exactly sure. Like, I'm not even exactly sure how to bet on that. And I'm also not exactly sure on like short-term pricing. Like, my whole thing is like, I want to take the longest view in the room. Like, shout out Sam Hinkie. Like, I always want to take the longest view in the room possible. So I don't know, man. I started buying Bitcoin, Ethereum, and unfortunately Litecoin in 2016. I have bets on CryptoPunks and Zed, the horse racing stuff. I have bets on Top Shot, but I honestly don't know if any of those will win in the space. I honestly don't. What will win in the space might not even be invented yet. I do know that if I was a young person these days, I would be focused on the crypto space. Like, the ceiling is just so out of control, massive. And I'm not referring to buying and holding coins or like the latest stupid fucking PFP project or fucking dog coins or whatever. I mean like actual crypto businesses that solve real world problems. Like, why do I need all these middlemen in every aspect of finance and business? Put it on blockchain and we have a deal. I don't need the dude at the bank, wetting his beak for 1% anymore, or the mortgage bro wetting his beak anymore. Anyway, I said I wasn't going to spout off on this stuff, and because I don't really know, and I'm doing it. So that was my mistake. I didn't mean to spout off. Moving on to more important stuff. Question 8, Scott. He says, is Cooper Kupp the PSM, penis size model, is Cooper Kupp the PSM's Jonah Falcon? So I actually didn't know who Jonah Falcon was. And when I get into these spots with listener questions where I actually have to Google something, it's a bit scary. But anyway, I did find Jonah Falcon's Wikipedia page, and I was not disappointed. And by the way, I'm actually embarrassed that I've never heard of this dude, because I've since found out he was on Stern a bunch, and I missed it. But anyway, his wiki says, Jonah Falcon's wiki says, Jonah Falcon is an American actor and television presenter. He came to international attention in 1999 because of his claim that he has the largest penis in the world, which he claims is 13.5 inches long when erect. However, Falcon has not authorized or permitted independent verification of this figure. I mean, one of the more absurd Wikipedia intros I've ever read, but okay. But it doesn't stop there. Further on Wikipedia, it says, Falcon has accepted money for sex, saying, I took $500 from a lady on the Upper East Side to pose in my underwear for Polaroids. I've been offered $1,000 just to let someone suck it, and I'll say, why not? It's really about my ego. My ego is bigger than my sexuality. I can dig it, I guess, like, he's showing some self-awareness, and I think self-awareness is like one of the strongest signs of intelligence to me. So I kind of dig this dude. But, it keeps going. It says that he was stopped by the TSA officers in the airport due to a large bulge in his pants. I mean, so ridiculous. And then in 2014, it says Falcon agreed to donate his penis to the Icelandic Philological Museum, the Penis Museum, after his death. Which is crazy, because actually, when I was in Iceland, I went to that museum, which was just so absurd. But anyways, back to the original question from Scott. He said, is Cooper Kupp the PSM's Jonah Falcon? Look, man, this Cooper Kupp thing has sent our PSMs reeling. Like, I'm on the verge of firing the entire team behind the PSM. I just want to fire them all. I don't know what to say. Like, Cooper Kupp is on pace to set the NFL record for the most receiving yards in a season, beating Calvin Johnson, and the PSM just missed it. So, I don't know what to say. No excuses. Play like a champion. All right. That is going to do it for this solo pod. If you haven't subscribed yet to NBA DFS and or NBA props, get on that. I'll be back with Silva later tonight for Team by Team. For producer Luke, for Jerry, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.